Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I am delighted, and I mean that, delighted to be joined by Kev McCluskey, all the way from Hungary, and by Sean Connolly, dialing in from Australia. We are there and we're always there, and today I'm going to be confident enough, some might say it's a bit forward, to say Celtic have wrapped up the league title today, Sean. It wasn't easy, but you know what? All the way through that second half, I'm thinking, look at the angle that's been taken here. Oh, Celtic are going to win. It's going to be tight, etc., etc. We missed a penalty. We had 2 marginal goals chopped off. It wasn't all that tight. Come on. Celtic deserving winners.
You're right. It wasn't tight, but it was nervy, right? As long as there's only 1 goal in it and they're pumping balls into the box and Jack Butland's coming up for corners, it's still, very much on at that point. And Ida had 3 great chances, like 2 on his own and 1 where he should square it, and it would have been out of sight. Matt O'Reilly, oh man, how much I would have loved to see Matt O'Reilly Panenka that again, because the keeper does commit, but as what it is, we couldn't take our chances second half to put it to bed. Rangers actually got their tactics right. They sat off until the 75th minute, hoping they would still be in it, and they were, and then they started committing men forwards. It didn't work for them in the end, but it was probably the best that they could have hoped for, being a man down against us at Celtic Park with no fans for them.
Okay. Nerves? What nerves? Says Marquis. Kev, you look as though you've been through the ringer, mate. How did you find that?
I'm just glad you went to Sean first for that, because I'm done. I'm absolutely mentally done in after that. But yeah, I think Sean summed it up perfectly. It wasn't a tight game, really. We dominated for 75 minutes and then we made it really nervy with the end. And give Rangers a bit of credit for it. They did get tactics right. They did put us under pressure towards the end, but they had to, because that was their season on the line. We should have had that game out of sight before the hour mark, and then he does passed up 3 great chances at the end. Oh, I don't know if this is one of those games when you watch it back later with a fresh perspective on it and you go, it was never in doubt, really, because I think Joe Hart, there's only 1 shot on target from Rangers in the whole game. I think they mentioned that, and it was the goal. They didn't really threaten Joe Hart that much. But my God, did we make ourselves work for that? I'm a nervous wreck at the moment. I'm emotionally gone, but I think as well, you can almost say it. We've got 1 hand on the title now. That's it.
No, I'm saying it, mate. I'm saying it.
Champions League next year. Here
I'm saying it, buddy. Listen, go and put a wee ice in your Hungarian water and relax, mate. Chill. Just chill. Thanks, everybody, for getting involved.
It'll be something stronger than Hungarian water later on, I can tell you that.
Possibly. Listen, I'm diving right in with Trey Dickerson here. Champions. Absolutely champions. We did make it hard for ourselves, but that's. I just think that there's a lot of comments coming in, and you know what? I'm going to remain positive today. I'm not going to try and put a negative slant on what we've seen there. We could dig out Ida for missing a few chances. We could maybe dig out the slackness of the pass and the fact that we didn't put it to bed. But I do think, going back to what Sean said, it wasn't tight, it was more nervy, because it always is at 2-1. I'm not a betting man, but I predicted 2-1. I did predict, however, that Rangers would take the lead. Thank the Lord they didn't, because that is not good for the nerves either. Stevie Boy,
you were going to say something else there, Paul.
What did you think I was going to say? DM me. Stevie Boy, send for the Ralstonator.
He was immense.
He was immense. A cameo, but how good was he?
He was so good. He was so won everything. He was amazing. He even put one on the plate for Ida, who passed out.
When he was coming on, guys, I was thinking, right, he's bound to be rusty. He's not really had much in the way of game time. And then straight off the bat, it's like he clicked right back into it. I'm a big fan. We've now got an award called the Tony Ralston of the Year Award, which is going to be given to Liam Scales. But Tony Ralston himself, Kev, he was brilliant when he came on.
Yeah, he was. I share that view as well. There's always the worry when a player comes in out the cold like that he will be a bit rusty. He's coming into this game. They were on top at that point as well, and they were getting quite a bit of joy down Johnson's right-hand side. So you're thinking he needs to be on it from the second he steps on the park. And he was. And he did a few things, who always remember him screaming in Neymar's face And that's like the image that you've got of Tony Ralston. And there was a few wee gallus moments that he did today as well. I just felt even fixing the corner flag after Raskins knocked it down. It killed a few extra seconds. It brought a wee bit of composure back into the team for a moment, took the heat off us. Yeah, he was really good. He was solid. He was Tony Ralston. He just gave us that Ralston performance that you expect from him, especially in these games, because he's one of us. He's a fan in a jersey and he's out there and he knows exactly what it means to win the game and he knows how to do it as well.
Here's the thing, Sean, right? I think players like Tony Ralston, in terms of a squad, are absolutely pivotal to your success, because you need some players who know they're not the first choice, right? And they know that at any given moment, be it what happened today or an injury on a training pitch, they might be called upon. And they're low maintenance. They don't throw the toys at the pram. They don't demand more game time. They know their role in the squad. And the role is second choice. I think we've got a few of them. I think up until recently, James Forrest was one of the guys. I think Tony Ralston, Stephen Welsh. And I think there's a few at the moment who are starting who probably should be in that position as well. And as I say, I'm not going to be negative today.
Yeah, I'm not going to say the names, but
key.
I think
they're
absolutely
key. Yeah, they're key to success, aren't they? They really are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yeah, I there's a name that's featuring on my notes quite a lot, and I'm not going to say it. Let's focus on positives today. Today we have virtually sealed the Premiership and whatever £60 million it is in the new Champions League format next year. We've also won effectively. We're all effectively won the Premiership, but we have sealed a trophy today, and that is the Summer Bragging Rights Cup. That one is in the trophy cabinet.
Brilliant.
We've claimed it back from Sevco. We won it back. We did it, lads. The Summer Bragging Rights Trophy is ours, which means that we're a few weeks away.
Did we get the Moral Victory Cup as well, though?
Unfortunately, we're still 1 point behind in League One. That's the October to May competition that Sevco won last year. We're still 1 point behind in that. So we'll need to play for that in the last two games.
No, you're right. And by the way, I do love the aftermath of games like today. The very mere suggestion that against all the odds, it was almost like I was a Hollywood scriptwriter during the week. Against all the odds, Brendan Rodgers is going to pull this one out the fire and win the league. And the amount of stick I got for that from the usual suspects. Listen, I stand by it. I think, coming into this season, Brendan Rodgers already had a lot to contend with, Kev. He had a lot of guys like yourself who were not happy that he was a man given the job. I think he's been sold something of a dummy, but in terms of that happening, I don't think it was a deliberate thing. I think Celtic worked in good faith, looking to try and, they spent a lot of money in the central defensive area. They were trying to bring in players. They weren't up to scratch. Most of them weren't up to scratch. So Rodgers trusted the recruitment process, then realised, actually, these guys aren't at the quality that I want. And then we're in May, and he's not started a single new signing. And I think that speaks volumes. So you're contending with all that, poor recruitment, a shocking injury list, falling out with the Green Brigade and the ultra groups to the point where when they're not in the stadium, in my view, we miss something, we lose something. And then the situation with Abada. I do think that in order to really look at the achievement, you've got to look at the whole context of it. And I think it's going to be a tremendous league win. Now, as enjoyable as an invincible treble, no chance. Nowhere near it, Kev. My point remains, though, we won that league in the invincible treble season. We won that league. 30 points was our nearest challengers, and it was Aberdeen. They were 30 points away. That's astonishing. This is something where, we've been throwing loads of grenades and we've managed to deal with it. There came a point where Rodgers really had to step up, and I think he has, Kevin.
He has, yeah, definitely. The invincible treble, I think, will always remain Rodgers' biggest achievement at Celtic. But this may be the biggest title that he's won, the individual title, because of all those things that he has had to overcome. And to look at that team today, and there's none of the 9 players that we bought in the summer are in there. He's taken basically until February, March to get to a point where he's discarded them from his first team thoughts for now, or for the first 11 thoughts for now, and he's found a core group of players that he's trusting. It's the guys that were there last season, which is probably no surprise because they are the guys that are winners. They're serial winners. They know how to do it. They've been over the course before. You made the comparison of the point earlier on with Neil Lennon when he came in first time around. He told players that they were in his future plans if he got the job beyond the end of the season, but for those 13 games or whatever, they weren't going to feature. Probably this is something that Brendan's done now as well. He's gone, these 15 players that I'm trusting to win me this league title. And sitting here this afternoon, I think we can pretty much say that they've done it for him. And now we look forward to next season. Rodgers getting his own players in, giving guys like Nawrocki a second chance over the summer to see what they can do, if they can break into this team. But right now, today, as I try and get my emotions back in check after that final 15 or 20 minutes, let's just enjoy this. This is a great moment. This is something that some fans didn't think we would see just a couple of months ago. So big credit to Brendan. He's overcome a lot. Big credit to the team because they're giving us another great moment that we can just go and enjoy.
Absolutely, and a big load of fun over the weekend will be had. Joseph McGonigal 3 in a row. That's what we're looking towards. If my calculations are right, we're 6 points ahead and 9 goals to the good. Mathematically not impossible, but we've won the league. If you ask me, the only downside of today was Kenny Miller. And to paraphrase, I curse my ears for ever having to listen to that article. That's what I think of Kenny Miller. He was an absolute joke. Ralston was on the park, potentially, Sean, due to the effects of that tackle in the first half.
Now, it was definitely that. His point is the same Achilles that got the studs in it.
Shocking. And someone who's played the game at a high level is trying to claim that was not a red card offence. I'm pointing it out again simply because there's a lot of people who come in for the full time who don't watch the halftime. I think that was the most ridiculous performance by a commentator I have ever suffered in Kenny Miller. And someone should have had a word in his ear at halftime, Sean. An absolute joke.
Yeah, I was just disappointed I couldn't turn him off, to be honest with you. Anytime he's on any other medium, he's well employed in BBC and Clyde One these days. He gets all his EBTs obviously ran out. He gets a lot of money from these corporations, and yeah, I turn it off. Like, if I don't care what he has, I've just done with him years ago. He sacked his 11th manager after like 6 games or something like that. They didn't fancy him. I think he's got the IQ of about, I don't know, 2 ice cream cones, something like that. He's like Officer Duffy from Scary Movie. That's what he reminds me of. He's an oxygen thief and he shouldn't be on TV.
Sean didn't even prepare that. That was just
that
was outrageous. Well done. Love it. In fact, you've got more of a way with words than he does. Now, Joseph is tuning in from Malaysia. We're going to be talking about the goals, obviously, what it means for Celtic after this, looking a wee bit further ahead as well. And John McLaughlin makes a good point. Did Hart have a safety make? I don't think he did, because there was one shot on target and it was a goal.
He did.
He punched a couple of crosses, which were good because they were under pressure with them as well. So they were good. He got on the end of that one that was heading for Butland. So he did do well at the corners. But no, he didn't have a shot save.
No shot to save. Stephen Broadley, well done, Acsom, for a great season. All the way from the USA. Stephen, well, what I would say is that we've been working hard behind the scenes to bring some new content. There's going to be a weekly show dropping on the channel very, very soon. It will help you get through the summer. And it's something a wee bit different, fully produced, multi-camera, that whole thing. And I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy it, Stephen. So if you haven't done so already and you're tuning in, 1,600 strong across many different platforms, remember to subscribe. Give us a big thumbs up. And if you want to come to a live event, we've got a few coming up, one in Dunoon and one in Glasgow. The tickets are underneath this video. Now, James Pearson, 65 million richer today. I mean, we know in terms of financially what winning the league means, Kev, but let's take a moment to say, right, this is where we are, right? This is what we should do next. Now, I know it doesn't always work like that, Kev, because we had the same discussion in the summer. I do believe that with Brendan Rodgers at the helm, there'll be some kind of an agreement, between him and the club whereby, listen, I need a wee bit more control here when it comes to the recruitment. This is the type of player I want at the football club. We need to trim the squad. We really do. We need more quality over quantity. And I think there's a backroom shake-up required as well with regards to the structure of the recruitment and the scouting and all of that as well. Where do we go from here? Because we're going to be in a situation where we're too rich for Scottish football. In monetary terms, we're going to have too much money. You shouldn't be in a position. I think this is what the frustration's been this season. You're so far ahead. The gap is so wide that you should be able to make sure that you're prepared well enough in terms of personnel to go out and win the league. We've made hard work of it. Of course we have. But here we go. We're going into the summer. Where do we go from here, Kev?
Yeah, I think this summer's going to be very interesting for us. If that is an extra 65 million that we've got in the bank for winning the league potentially and getting Champions League, top that on the 70 million that's already in there. Now you're looking at us having 135 million pounds to play with, which in Scotland we should be walking the league every season with that. If we're a club with any ambition, then we look to do maybe not a root and branch clear out and uproot of the backroom team or whatever, but you look to become best in class across every department of the football club. So we look to become best in class in scouting. We look to get the best scouts that we can afford that can cover Europe, South America, Scandinavia for us. We look to get the best coaches in. We look to develop Barrowfield and Lennoxtown. We look to have the best training facilities that we possibly can and just invest behind the scenes there, because we're always going to be hamstrung by the fact that we're playing in Scotland. So we're not going to be able to spend £20 million on a player. That kind of player's not going to come. We're still going to have some limits on what we can do. But, I mean, the money's there that we can dominate Scottish football for the foreseeable future. We should be looking to reinvest that money big time as well in the playing squad. And I'm talking, it's £5 to £7 million players that come in as starters. We clear out some of that dead wood. We bring in, as I say, 3 or 4 players. There's money there that we can spend, and we need to do that. We need to have, I think, ambition to compete in Europe. This new Champions League format probably won't suit us in the long term, but if we can go there and compete and not be a laughingstock, as I think we had been over the last decade and a half in Europe, that's what we need to do now. Just absolutely foot in the throat and capitalise in this position that we're in.
The way I see it, Sean, I mean, figures are figures. We've shown this season that it doesn't guarantee success because we went about it the wrong way. We had a lot of money in the bank. I don't think we purchased wisely enough. We're going into the summer now. And by the way, anybody who's coming in, you might be unhappy with me talking like this. You might think that I'm being blasé about it. We're going to get a point from our last 2 games. I mean, we're going to win the league, okay? Today was the big test, right? So we're now talking, we're looking ahead. And as Kev says, there's so much financial riches at the end of this season with regards to the Champions League. We've been so well financially managed that we've got all that money in the bank already. You've got the 6.8 million quid coming in from Frimpong. You've got there or thereabouts of 10 million. The guts of 10 million for Abada. And it really is a case of looking after everything. But let's also look at what we've got in terms of the playing staff, the personnel, Sean, and say, well, there's a team there that's capable of winning the league. With Liam Scales playing centre-half, Greg Taylor playing left-back. An on-loan player from Norwich, who wasn't tearing up trees down there, coming in and playing a very important part. It wasn't great today. Played a very important part, Ida, in this title run, this double run. And let's do it a bit better, and let's bring in more quality. And let's actually, if you're going to spend 25, do that, but maybe bring in 3 or 4 players instead of 9 or 10. So
yeah, I agree with everything you're saying there, and I'll chuck a couple of numbers out that I've got sitting here that will disagree with what Kev said slightly, in that he said we can't spend 20 million on a single player. Well, why not? What's our income this last year was 120 million. I'm looking at it now. The year we spent 6 million on Hartson, Lennon, our income was less than 40. So as a percentage, that scales, and not Liam Scales, but Scales. So, if we spent 20 million, it's no different really. We spent total transfers that Martin O'Neill year, 50% of our gross income we spent on I mean, obviously we didn't because it was the co-op loan, but we spent the equivalent of 50% of our gross income on players. And that was the same team that took us to the European final, UEFA Cup final 3 years later. So it's not just an investment for 1 year, it's an investment for 2 to 3 years. And you can make that pay if you invest it correctly.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And
Yeah,
I think
sorry, if I come back on that one a little bit, I think I was just meaning we're probably not likely to attract a £20 million player to us, but I think we can certainly spend that level of money, 20 to 25 million, across our whole transfer spend. And I think that we should be looking at that being the level of net spend that we have, because I think if we look at probably the last decade, we've usually been in a net deficit. We've brought in more money than we've spent, I think, on transfer fees. So I'd be looking for us to really push the boat out, go for a net spend of 20 to 25 million. And if we happen to sign a player at 10, 12, 15 million, I would be very happy at that, if that was the ambition that the club had.
Edouard's available. By the way, I don't want to be negative, therefore I'm not talking about Matt O'Reilly's future, but in terms of his performance today, apparently he just dropped a bomb in the post-match by swearing on live telly when he was talking about his penalty. But overall, I mean, I don't even think it was a mixed bag for O'Reilly. I think O'Reilly is back to his best. I think in terms of his distribution, you saw it against Hearts last week. In terms of taking chances, you saw it today. I think he was outstanding today, Sean. Brilliant.
Yeah, apart from the penalty, obviously, but yeah, even at the end, he was the one chasing it. That the 96th minute or whatever, where that ball was coming out of the stratosphere and he kills it, and fair enough, it was offside, but like, just the touch was like, yeah, he was sensational. He was everywhere in the first 30 minutes or first 20 minutes, whatever, that second half, where we were all over them. It was those intricate touches in and around the box, that when they were really doing that low block, that was what we had to be doing, and he was the one that was really in charge of doing that. His touch, his instinct is just sensational. I don't see him playing next year for us. I just don't.
It's going to be a sad one, but I think that we get to that point where we're almost resigned to a cycle within a player. My biggest frustration with that one, Kev, is the fact that we knew what type of player Matt O'Reilly was when Brendan Rodgers came into the club. I kept saying, I hope that's water and not absolute vodka, by the way. I kept saying...
It's water, yeah.
Australian water, Hungarian water, there we go. That I wanted to see O'Reilly, Hatate and Abada performing under Rodgers. I thought Rodgers was like the perfect manager for them to develop them. And of the three, through Abada's situation, injuries to Hatate, we've only really seen the effects, the natural effects of him developing, but also developing under a different coach. Of O'Reilly, he's been a sensational signing for Celtic. Very, very cheap at £1.5 million when we signed him. But my biggest frustration, if he does leave and it looks likely and all that, and I don't want to be negative about it, is that we weren't able to give him 2 or 3 other real players of quality around about him to see how he would have performed in a team like that. Because I think that there's been points this season, Kev, where he's kind of carried us.
That's something I would have just said at the end if you hadn't mentioned it. I think he has carried us at certain points this season. When McGregor's been off it, perhaps O'Reilly's been the one that stepped up. This season, I think he's been tremendous for the full campaign. He did have a little dip in form, but I think his standards were so high that when he was performing, his poor performances were still pretty decent, but he's just set such a high bar for himself. It would be really interesting to see him playing in a Celtic team that had that, 2 or 3 other star players alongside him. If he could have had a season out of Abada, like you say, or if Hatate's been fit all season, because we've seen it in the last few games that when Hatate's been back, it's freed O'Reilly back up to do more of the creative side of his game as well. It's taken some of the burden off him, and his performance level stepped up again. He is a tremendous player. And that touch that Sean mentioned, it was, I used the word delicious earlier on in the season about Louis Palma with one of his goals, but that was something else, that touch. It's you say the ball's just dropping out the air. It's the easiest thing in the world to miscontrol that and put it out. But it was a great touch, just a shame he was marginally offside.
Especially when you're tired.
He is.
Yeah, especially when you're tired.
It comes in stoppage time at the end of the game, and he's put in such an effort throughout that match. For the first hour, 65 minutes, I thought he was unplayable. Then again, I think he phased out the game a little bit for maybe 10, 15 minutes at that point, and I think that's no surprise that that's when Rangers came into it. But then again, towards the end, he's the one that's covering every blade of grass. He's starting attacks. He's putting in blocks at the other end. He's the complete midfielder. It's been a joy to watch him for the last few seasons with us. I'd love to see him hang around for another. But yeah, like Sean, I'm not sure we will. But he's a tremendous player, and he can go to whatever league and whatever club he wants to, and he'll fit in.
See, I know the world of Celtic and Scottish football and the things that hold us back don't allow us to work like this. But you look at some of the players, even just between the Ange Postecoglou team and the Brendan Rodgers season, and you think to yourself, if we could keep them together just for a couple of seasons, and then really add quality to that group of players, to see even Edouard play alongside Kyogo for a longer spell, or Christie playing in that Postecoglou team would have been tremendous. But it's where we're at. But I think eventually there needs to be that commitment where we say, well, I said a few weeks ago, try and keep O'Reilly. We're never keeping him. We've kind of been trained as football fans and as Celtic fans to understand the reality is he'll leave this summer. I hope no one else does. That's what I'm going to say now. We've got Lack Winger, Paul Ronidale in the stand. Right there, I wish we could give him a job up at in terms of academy and scouting players. The guy is a talent finder, but I'm pretty sure he'll be looking elsewhere for a proper manager's job somewhere else. But I think
he's out of a job at the moment. So yeah, he's out of a job at the moment. So you never know. I mean, if we're looking at best in class across football departments of the club, if he would take a position of academy director, for example, that could suit him down to the ground, because I think his biggest strength is developing young players.
Yeah, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with that. Ian Roy, I'm trying to decompress now, get in there. I want everybody to go and have some fun tonight. I didn't catch any of the playlist at halftime or full-time, guys. Was the DJ up to the old Tiger Tims, was he? No?
I was in with you guys. I had it muted, so I didn't hear.
Let us know in the comment section. Donny, Tiny Hands, if O'Reilly scored, it would have probably been more. I agree with that. I think the floodgates would have opened. And Peter O'Neill, thank you for supporting a Celtic state of mind. Henrik McLarson will forgive the penalty miss, so will I, I've got to say. And John Taggart, are you that John Taggart? The John Taggart who actually played for Celtic? Let us know. From the Carlton to Perth, Australia, still having fun. If so, I hope you enjoy your evening. And Danny Boy, get me off skate and we get a 30-goal a season player. Again, trained to start thinking like, the way that we approach things. This is probably more likely than going to get someone like Edouard, whose wages will be absolutely off the scale, Sean.
Yeah. I really like Miovski. I would have him, honestly. I would. He's shown up in games against us really well this season. I know he didn't get nominated in the Player of the Year shortlist, but I think that was more a reflection of consistency, which was why Matt O'Reilly lost out in the end on that one. Because there's not a person that watches Scottish football could doubt that Matt O'Reilly is the best player in Scotland. But Player of the Season is about consistency and also about peaking at the right time. You need to peak in that February, March kind of that window as well to be in people's recent memory. So yeah, Miovski, definitely for me. Matt O'Reilly, definitely the best player in Scotland for me. And he got my vote for the Celtic Player of the Year. I think he was on the Young Player of the Year shortlist as well. I think I voted for him twice.
Yeah, and Joe Hart, again, deserves credit. He didn't have much to do today. Stubbs his horse, one final point. That's a zebra. £35 million for silver, remember. Price tag means nothing. Proper scouting does. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And again, I don't want to spend bad money. We've been stung in the past with spending bad money and not really getting the quality that we require. Matt O'Reilly's proven that you can find that quality elsewhere and it doesn't always cost you the earth. But fantastic performance today by O'Reilly. Next couple of games, Kev, basically just get the job done. I'm feeling a wee bit like that. Just take care of business, get the job done, probably using the same personnel that started today.
Yeah, I would think so. There's no reason to change it. The starting 11 that started today's game, I think everyone agreed is the strongest starting 11. 3 of us did. I think most folks in the comment would have said the same thing. So if they're all fit and ready to go, put them back out there at Rugby Park on Wednesday night. That will be a tough game because we always seem to struggle there and on that artificial surface. So I would be happy with taking the point from that game that secures the title for real. But yeah, that team that we've got, I think it's certainly good enough to go and do the job over the next couple of games. And yeah, mate, I'm still trying to come down as well after that. Honestly,
I can sense that. I can sense that from your energy, but that's understandable. The emotional element of coming on straight on the whistle at full time is something you need to temper, and I think it comes with time. And you've done a lot of games, Kev, and not as many as Scott Bain has as an unused sub, but you've done a lot of games for the Celtic state of mind. You have.
I think I deserve this moment of being a little bit emotional about this. We've gone through the course this season. Aye.
And how do you celebrate it? Last word from our international fan base. How do you celebrate in Hungary, in Australia, when effectively we've won the league? How do you celebrate?
Oh, we've got a massive Celtic supporters club down here, so we do tend to go out and have a bit of a knees up. We get some guys playing. Ryan Jameson comes in and sorry, not Ryan, it's his brother Gary Jameson comes in and plays the reps on the stage. We get about 200 guys in there, or guys and girls in there. Usually when there's a goal goes in, there's a lot of broken glass in there. It's pretty hectic. The last game up back at January, December, whenever it was, they had to put people in the overflow bar. It was that busy. So we do get a good celebration when we're out here.
Brilliant. Listen, thanks everybody for getting involved. Join us again on Monday. Enjoy your weekend. Have fun. Thank you to Kevin McCluskey and Sean Connolly for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.